The Whispering Walls. Emily had always been drawn to the quaint charm of the countryside. When she found an old Victorian house for sale at an unbelievably low price, she saw it as a sign. The house, known as Hawthorn Manor, had been abandoned for years, its once vibrant exterior now cloaked in ivy and shadows. Despite its eerie appearance, Emily fell in love with its potential and decided to make it her own. She moved in on a crisp autumn day, her excitement barely contained. The first few days were spent cleaning and unpacking, the creaking floors and groaning pipes adding to the atmosphere rather than detracting from it. It was on the third night that Emily first heard the whispers.
Lying in bed, she was jolted awake by a soft murmur. At first, she thought it was the wind rustling through the trees, but the whispers grew more distinct, more insistent. They seemed to come from the very walls of the house. Emily strained to listen, but the words were incomprehensible, a jumble of voices speaking in hushed tones. She tried to ignore it, chalking it up to her imagination, but the whispers persisted. Every night, as soon as she lay down, the voices would begin. Desperate for sleep, Emily decided to investigate. She walked through the darkened halls, following the sounds as they grew louder. They led her to the basement, a place she had avoided since moving in. The basement was cold and damp, the air thick with the smell of mold and decay. Emily hesitated at the top of the stairs, but the whispers urged her on. She descended slowly, the creaking steps echoing in the silence. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening now, seeming to come from behind a large, dust-covered cabinet. With trembling hands, Emily moved the cabinet aside, revealing a hidden door. She pushed it open and found herself in a small, candlelit room. The whispers stopped abruptly as she stepped inside. On a table in the center of the room lay an old, leather-bound diary. Emily picked it up, the pages yellowed with age. The diary belonged to a woman named Margaret Hawthorn, the original owner of the house. As Emily read, she learned that Margaret had been a medium, using the room to communicate with spirits. The last entry was dated over a century ago and described a séance gone horribly wrong. Margaret had summoned a spirit that refused to leave, trapping her and the other participants in the house. Emily's blood ran cold as she realized the whispers were the voices of those trapped souls, pleading for release. Determined to help, she researched ways to cleanse the house. She gathered sage, candles, and holy water, and returned to the basement. Emily began the ritual, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. She lit the candles, the flames flickering in the damp air, and began to chant. The whispers grew louder, more desperate, but she continued undeterred. As she sprinkled holy water around the room, the air grew heavy, and a cold wind swept through the basement. Suddenly, the whispers stopped, replaced by a deafening silence. Emily felt a presence behind her and turned to see a figure shrouded in darkness. It was Margaret, her face twisted in torment. Emily held her ground, continuing the chant. The figure screamed, a sound that echoed through the house, and then vanished. The silence that followed was almost unbearable. Emily stood in the basement, her heart pounding in her chest. Slowly, she made her way back upstairs, the house eerily quiet. That night, for the first time since she moved in, there were no whispers. The house felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. Emily continued to live in Hawthorn Manor, its haunted history now a part of her own. The whispers never returned, and she made peace with the spirits that once tormented her. The house, once a place of fear, became a sanctuary. And though she never forgot the whispers, she knew she had given the trapped souls the release they had so desperately sought.